Well, hello again from here inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium now. They're cutting the grass over my shoulder there. I shouldn't think they'd need to, given the amount of ground Newcastle covered there in the second half, defending that slender one-goal advantage to make it 5 wins on the spin in the Premier League, 6 wins in all competitions. And listen, this was different. There was the control at Manchester United on Monday night, a 2-0 win, when I thought, even though there was a little sticky moment after half-time, I come back to that word, it felt as if they were in control. They weren't really in control their second half, and that's not a criticism, it's a reality, but they've found a way to win. And isn't that the sign of a good team? Now, I'm not going to revert to the old cliche, playing badly and winning. They didn't play badly and winning, they just found a different way. That's what good sides do. And right now, Newcastle are a good side. But the second half, they were lucky, they were fortunate to a degree. That out of the 6 wins was probably the one which they came closest to not winning. It was the question I've asked of Eddie Howe just downstairs there now. The first half didn't start particularly well. Then there was that element before half-time when they looked like the better team and they were in control. They got the 2-1 lead and they come out in the second half and it didn't really play out. And Eddie said as much himself. He said the second half wasn't what he wanted it to be. They weren't comfortable. They weren't good enough with the ball in terms of keeping the ball and having that control. He used that word himself and he said that was a frustration. But nonetheless, I still really, towards the end there, even though you would say a Tottenham goal might have just felt inevitable at times, I still had that confidence that they probably would see it out. And I thought certainly from 45 to 90, they weren't necessarily great at times, but from 90 to 103, where did they find 13 extra minutes from? I thought Newcastle actually really did step up during that period, even if on the whole second half they probably weren't at their best. And doesn't that speak to the fact that they've gone so hard and so well for so long now? And Eddie actually touched on it himself in the press conference. He said that when they were bouncing around, they were changing teams, performances were inconsistent, they weren't playing well, they were winning, they were losing, or draw. He said he made a conscious decision to keep a settled side. And that is what he has done. And the upshot has been this consistent run of performances and results where they've played well and they've won. Well, today in the second half, I thought that reached expiry just a little bit, and it might just need a few changes, especially with these games coming thick and fast over the next 10 days. It might just need a few changes in there just to freshen things up, because in the second half, I'm reluctant to use the word criticism. I'm reluctant to use the phrase played badly. I didn't think they played badly. They just looked tired. They just looked a little bit spent. They lost control. Even the way they started the game, I said, come here and do what you did at Manchester United on Monday night. Look at the team sheet and just go out and be the better team. Just show that you've got better players than Tottenham. They didn't really do that, certainly not during the first 20 minutes. It was sloppy. Now, in the end, yes, they did take control and they went in 2-1 up at half-time, and that was well-deserved. And there was a couple of really big performances in the second half, the likes of Dan Burn and Tino Livramento. And I come back to what I started this opening little section with. They found a way to win. They're 5th in the table now. They are, 11, 12 points ahead of Spurs. Spurs aren't recovering that. Ange Postecoglou can come out and say that he thought his side deserved to win. They might have won on another day. I'm not having that at all, I'm sorry. I think Newcastle are just better than Spurs. I think they'll finish above Spurs. They'll finish above Man United, likewise, who they beat earlier in the week. So to that end, forget talk of the top 7 in Conference League and Europa League. It's got to be the Champions League, and not even the Champions League by finishing 5th. The Champions League by finishing 4th. We'd spoken a lot about the away form and needing to have these big statement results and performances. Well, wow, haven't they had 2 in the space of a week now at what you would call top 6 clubs, Man United and Tottenham. They're in such a good place, and there was that belief, and that is the reassuring thing. I came here today thinking Newcastle would win, and they did win. And that is what good teams do. And right now, Newcastle are a very good team. Now let's revisit the game and talk through the steps of how Newcastle got that victory. We'll come to the merit stars as well. There were contenders today. I thought some players were up there on the podium, then they stepped off and they tried to climb back aboard. I've got my 3. I've got my 1, 2, 3 in ascending order. I'm not going to fudge that, even though I really had to wrestle over. There were 4 players, perhaps even 5, who I thought deserved to be on there. I've gone with the 3. We'll come to that. But first of all, how did the game play out? Well, the big news before the match was that Sven Botman, after 10 months out, well, he returned at the starting 11. I revealed in my Newcastle Confidential column 2 days ago. He was fit, he declared himself ready, he was going to be back in the squad this weekend. It was up to Eddie Howe what he did with him. I'm not so sure Eddie Howe might have changed his mind on Thursday. The noise is coming back. There's going to be Lloyd Kelly in the starting 11. It wasn't, it was Botman. And in the end, it proved to be the right call, even though perhaps we weren't thinking that after 2 or 3 minutes. The cross comes in from Pedro Porro. I actually think Newcastle had a really sloppy start of the game. There's not enough pressure on the cross. Gordon goes to close him down. Could more have been done on that left-hand side as a whole, perhaps. The cross comes in, it's a good ball, but Botman, he looks rusty, he's entitled to be rusty. Dominic Solanke as well. It's actually really good movement from Solanke. I thought he was very good in the first half, missed a few chances. Second half, but yeah, he peels off Botman, puts the header in the bottom corner. That's 1-0 Spurs. And you just think after everything Spurs have been through, haven't won here in 2 months, does that then give them the start they so badly crave and need and get the crowd up? Well, no, it doesn't, because what I liked about Newcastle's response in the wake of Tottenham taking the lead was that it was calm, was that it was mature. Those are the words Eddie Howe has just used with us downstairs, and within 2 minutes, they're level. They've gone up to the other end. Now, this equalising goal is shrouded in controversy. Ange Postecoglou's just said it was downstairs there, that he's furious, the most angry he's ever been. There's been a lot of noise about it on social media too. Now, it's a goal. It's not a handball. If you talk to the laws of the game, to the VAR protocol, Joe Linton's hand, as Bergvall plays the pass. Now, first of all, what I will say is, Bergvall, you've got 5 yards either side of Joe Linton to play your pass. Don't play it at the man. If it doesn't hit his hand, it maybe even hits his thigh. Just play a better ball. Go beyond your man. So it's a poor ball from the Spurs midfield. It hits Joe Linton on the hand. Now, it does, of course it hits him on the hand. We're not going to dispute that, but it's in a natural position. It's down by his side. It doesn't then immediately influence the goal. Now, if that happens in the 6-yard box, the ball drops, Joe Linton or a teammate immediately puts it in. Now that, VAR would revisit that, or the referee at the time would disallow the goal. And that's right, I understand that. But the way the rules are, the way the protocol is, VAR, the referee, everyone involved in the making of that subsequent decision was right to allow the goal to stand. It is an accidental handball. That is how the rules would have it be. So I understand, of course you understand the anger. It does hit his hand, and within 3 or 4 seconds the ball's in the back of the net, but it's a goal. It was right to stand. Bruno picks it up, feeds the little pass into Anthony Gordon. I actually thought on first viewing, and this was my view, my seat actually I'm stood in front of here, my view, I thought, oh, he's taking it too wide there, that touch with the right foot, but then he does well to put it back. Everything you're taught as a little boy, where do you aim in that situation? Well, you aim at the far post, and Gordon puts it right in the side net, and past the goalkeeper who was coming in today. I actually thought the goalkeeper did well on the whole, making his Spurs debut after 9 years at the club. I thought he might have done a little bit better with that, but nonetheless, it's a good finish from Gordon, and that's 1-1. But then even still, there's a period up until about the 20th minute, I thought, where it was really frantic, where both teams had the ball, both teams lost the ball, both teams had half chances. Newcastle's midfield didn't start the game like it has started and finished and gone through all of the games recently. That was evidenced by Sandro Tonali. I went and checked the stats after about 20, 25 minutes, half an hour, and Tonali had the least amount of touches from Newcastle's outfield players there. He only had 12. Now, for a player who has got top merit stars and I think 3 of the last 4 games here, that's a surprise, and he's got that because he's offered that control. He's been the conductor, as I called him. Now, Newcastle needed a conductor there in the first half and the second half, and they didn't really have it, certainly not during the first half of the first half, if you like. It's sloppy. Joe Linton's given the ball away. I thought Bruno was the one, actually. Everything that was good through Newcastle in the first half was going through Bruno Guimaraes, evidenced by that assist for Anthony Gordon's goal. But yeah, it was a poor, sort of indifferent first 20 minutes. Newcastle were unrecognisable to a degree, but then it settled down. And from that moment on, I think 20 to 45, I thought they were very good. And the half finished as probably we'd expected it to start, with Newcastle in control, teasing passes around. Sandro Tonali comes into the game. There's no surprise what leads to Newcastle's second goal. It's Tonali to Bruno. Bruno, a great little ball into Murphy. Jacob Murphy again puts it across the face of goal. And in the end, Dragusin gets the touch. I thought on first viewing it was no own goal, but Anthony Isak, again, I keep on making these hybrid players. Anthony Isak would be wonderful. Alexander Isak gets that important little touch just to turn it in, and that's 7-7. And what I said about Isak in the last video was, I love that he's scoring all types of goal now. You know, we know he is that wonderful player who can score your Thierry Henry-esque goals. Well, that was a little poacher's finish there to make it 9 goals in his last 7 games. And wow, it's proved the winning goal, really. If Newcastle, if any team has got a player like that on a day when they weren't at the brilliant, fluent best throughout, that makes the difference. That, on reflection, you look at the score sheet there at the end, it is the difference between 1 point and 3. Isak being in the right place at the right time and worrying those centre-halves with that movement. That's 2-1. And the frustration about Newcastle is that probably during that period, up until the end of the first half, they didn't add a second. Anthony Gordon got in an almost identical position. And again, he took it too wide and the finish wasn't really there. Jacob Murphy fizzed one across the box with no takers. Where was Isak on that occasion? There was another one when Isak does get there. It's Murphy. Again, I didn't think it was Jacob Murphy's best game, but are we just sort of learning what Jacob Murphy is now, that he will put those balls across the box? He will pop up with that willingness in the right flank. He's got another assist for Isak there. So he's got to stay in the team. Like I said, I didn't think he was great. He gave the ball away once or twice cutting in field, but he's come up with another assist and he's laid on what should have been probably 2 more assists. That second one, Anthony Gordon's unmarked at the far post. He's screaming at Isak to leave it. Isak gets the touch and it fizzes wide. The first half then ends. Anthony Gordon does brilliantly to charge down Archie Gray, who is in a world of trouble. Gordon takes it off and rolls it inside to Isak. Isak has a bad touch. Eddie Howe in front of us there was pulling his hair out at that one. He knew if they'd gone 3-1, if they got that 2-goal cushion going into half-time, it was probably game over. But it was 2-1 and Newcastle come out for the second half. And it isn't great, let's be honest. Spurs were forcing it to a change at half-time. You looked at what they had, Jed Spence and Archie Gray at centre-half, and you thought, this is it, Newcastle can go and exploit that. But they never really did. They had one break, I think, at 2-1 before the hour when it's eventually worked wide and nothing really comes of it. There's a Tonali shot blocked by Archie Gray, but it was evident really from the start of the second half. They were tired, and that is understandable. They weren't really clicking. Spurs then make the treble change just after the hour, and the game really changes from that point on. It's just got that feel of Newcastle not having control of the game. I didn't think Spurs had control either. They were just playing very Spursy. There was some good, some bad, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some shots fizzing across the box, a couple of half chances that they didn't really take, but nonetheless they were the team who were probably in the ascendancy, is what you'd say, in the second period. And Newcastle had to ride the luck at times, but didn't some big players step up during that period? Is that the alarm to tell me to leave? I'm not leaving. We'll carry on. And yet when the alarm sounded, who stepped up for Newcastle again? It was Dan Burns. Sven Botman had a really good block at the start of the second half there. Again, you know, to go back to Botman's performance, we'll talk about Burn in just a second. And Eddie Howe has spoken about how well they came together as a pair, because they haven't really played together, those two left-sided centre-halves before. Botman, the start of the second half, that shaky start of the first, but he had a really good block on Dominic Solanke, I think it was then, about the 47th, 48th minute. And I made a point of making a note of it, because that just showed that bravery, that intelligence, that sharpness to put his body in there. And I really thought Botman got better as the game went on. But Dan Burn, just during that period where Tottenham were throwing all sorts from all angles, he kicked, he headed it, he blocked it, he tackled, he did that again. He did it in slightly different circumstances at Man U, because I saw that Man U still had the control in front of them. But Newcastle's midfield went missing second half. You know, when I talk about those merit stars, Bruno Guimaraes was on the podium at half-time, absolutely the same as he had that brilliant first half down at Man United. Very good in the first half. Again there, he went missing second half along with Tonali and Joe Linton, I thought, up until the 90th minute. Now, Joe Linton had a mad 60, 90 seconds where, again, I used that, Eddie Howe was pulling his hair out where he'd lost the ball, he then had a sloppy pass, and it just wasn't really working. And I think I tweeted at the time at about the 65th, 70th minute that the game was drifting away from Newcastle. They needed changes, and the changes didn't really come, and they might have come too late. They didn't come too late, but Eddie spoke about this, and he said, going back to that consistency of selection, he said you even see it in game. He's just got a reluctance right now to break up what is working, those partnerships, that understand, and he doesn't really want to make subs, even to the point of it's all been going so well. I thought they probably should have made subs a little bit sooner today, but as it is, they make the changes there towards the end, and he just ends up flooding the midfield. Joe Willock is left as a lone front man. Who would have thought we'd saw that? But during those minutes, from 90 to 103, now I'd said the midfield went missing in the second half, and again, I want to be clear here, that's not a criticism. I just think they've been so good of late. They just got tired, and they just got overrun by Spurs, bringing on those fresh legs when they were probably crying out for a little bit of help from the sidelines, and those changes, their own changes, to have that support and that help didn't really come. But from minute 90 to 103, Sandro Tonali didn't just find one extra gear, he found 2 and 3 extra gears. You know, he was brilliant during that period. Bruno Guimaraes stepped up again. Joe Linton was important during that time, and the longer the game got towards 103, the nervier it got. I actually thought Newcastle got better, and they finished they finished the game quite strongly, in fact, and, you know, good value for it. That is what, I come back to what I said at the start, that is what good teams do. You don't have it all your own way. You're not going to boss from minute 1 to minute 90 at a place like Tottenham, as bad as they've been of late. They are going to have spells, and Newcastle managed to ride that. It was different, you know, 4 shots on goal today. Martin Dubravka, I thought, made a couple of really good saves, dealt well with a couple of crosses as well. You know, he's been suspect on crosses in the past, and we've spoken a lot about Dubravka's future in the video yesterday. More evidence there today why you probably wouldn't let him go. So no, another fantastic win, in the bandwagon rolls on to Arsenal on Tuesday, when changes are going to have to be made. That is what I thought the second half showed us there, that Eddie's got to find a way to freshen it up without changing that momentum and that feel-good around the team. Now the merit stars, okay. Thomas Tuchel was in the stands here today, the England boss, taking his first match since being appointed. He picked a good one. A lot of English players on display, certainly from a Newcastle perspective. And it is 3 English players who occupy the podium. Now, I'll give a mention afterwards for a couple who did miss out. But in ascending order, the one, well, that goes to Anthony Gordon. He got his goal. I thought he was a real threat in the first half. But not just that, it was his willingness to run forwards and to run backwards. He lost the ball. And, pick out these little things. He lost the ball in the first half there during an attack. And he charged fully back 70 or 80 yards to the goal, to the penalty area there, and made the block, made the interception, and it goes away for a corner. That was the endeavour he has got. Come the second half, to borrow a Geordie word, this is a Geordie word, it's an extender on the country, I don't know, but he was knackered in the second half, and he rightly came off. Perhaps even could have come off sooner, but that shouldn't take away from what he did in that first half. And really, I use those phrases, don't I, setting the tone. I thought Gordon didn't give them a moment's rest down the left, took his goal really well. But, and doesn't it just speak to everything I've said in previous videos? He could have actually had 3. He had one the second half where he puts it over the bar. He had that chance I've already mentioned, an identical chance to go and get a second goal. He can still take it to another level. Anthony Gordon is good enough to be scoring 2s and 3s, to be assisting 2s and 3s in the game. He can be, is this a stretch? He can be Newcastle's Mo Salah. Listen, can anyone be Mo Salah? But I think he can take his numbers closer to that. But nonetheless, still a really good game from Anthony Gordon in front of Thomas Tuchel. 2 stars, Tino Livramento. I really wrestled with this at half-time. If you'd asked me who was the best Newcastle player, I would have had Tino on all 3. He's come in for Kieran Trippier. Again, I called this in the Newcastle Confidential column. I got word that Eddie was going to mix it up and Tino would probably come in for this one. It was the right call. The manager's made a lot of right calls. He definitely got this one absolutely spot on. I thought he was really good. Just the ability to carry a ball. But at the end of it this time, there was the pass. It wasn't always a killer pass, but he kept the ball. He was smart. Listen, like the rest of me, had the sloppy opening 2 or 3 minutes, but they all did. But after that, he recovered. I thought he was brilliant. Probably his best game of the season, because as much as Tino Livramento has found himself in that England squad, I think he's fallen into it a little bit, and Carsley gave him a call up, but he didn't perhaps necessarily deserve it, whereas Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon played their way into the England squad. Well, there today, Tino Livramento looked like an England squad member. 2 stars. And to complete the English triumvirate, and it's the same player who took gold position, the maximum 3 stars on Monday night at Man United, Dan Burn. And it's for the period. Now, in the first half, there wasn't really much between Burn and Botman. They both did okay, but in the second half, when there was that 10, 15, 20-minute spell where Newcastle were rocking, where Eddie Howe said he didn't like what he saw, it was Dan Burn again who stood up, while those in front of him stepped off the gas. I just thought he was brilliant, and right now it's not even a contest for who is Newcastle's player this season. After the first 20 games, there's contenders, Alexander Isak, how can he, to those from the outside looking in, they'd say, well, he's actually Newcastle's player this season. He's not. It's Dan Burn that's for games like that there today. Without Dan Burn, I don't think Newcastle come away from here with the 3 points. And when players make the difference to that end, they put themselves at the top of my podium. Whether that means anything to them, I don't know. It means something to me, and Dan Burn means a lot to me, and he should mean a lot to you too. Brilliant. 3 stars, second game in a row. Well deserved. Now, those who I've got to mention who missed out, Martin Dubravka, I've already sort of touched on it. I thought Dubravka was good today. Bruno, first half, brilliant. Second, came in and out of it, but then towards the end started winning those clever fouls, and when his team needed him in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes, played like a captain, was very good. Lewis Hall, again, at left back up against Brennan Johnson, was really steady, a good game. And Sven Botman, now, to come back in after 10 months out and have that horror start, really, he wouldn't have liked that at all. But to have that composure physically and mentally to recover. And the good news is when he went down there, I honestly thought his knee had popped or something. When he went down and put his arm up, Eddie Howe's reassured us it was only cramp. That is totally understandable. But Botman as well, not playing on his preferred left-sided of the 2 centre-half side there, on the right, really, really good. And really, that gives you real assurance going forward with regards to what he will bring to the team, because he is European class, world class, top class, whatever phrase you want to use. When he's his very best, and we didn't see that last year, and on reflection we know why, because of the knee injury. Wow, what a boost that is. And to use the phrase I used in the video yesterday, which Eddie Howe went along with, that new signing, years, he can have the impact Tonali has had during the 5, 6, 7 weeks ago if he comes back in and hits the ground. And why can't he play 2 left-sided centre-halves there? But the good thing is, Eddie's actually got decisions to make. Cher, of course, won't be available down in Arsenal on Tuesday. But right now, he's got options. You've got Willock coming off the bench there. Harvey Barnes coming off the bench, put a decent shift in down the left. So they do need changes. I would say the second half there are enough little red flags to worry me going to Arsenal, but that's on Eddie now to find a way to pick that team that goes there. And remember, it's not a full match, it's half a match. The second half is to come at St James's in February, so they can actually go there and try something totally different. Go there and spoil it. Is that in them, or do they have to go there and play the way they have? Well, that's for the preview video for Arsenal. Right now, we should just reflect on this. And another brilliant day for Newcastle, another brilliant day for you guys away in that far corner over there. I dare say you've enjoyed it. It wasn't pretty second half, but isn't there beauty in that? Isn't there a beauty in a team finding those ways to win? Dogged resilience with big players like Dan Burn stepping up. I wrote all about the defence in the Daily Mail this morning, and I picked out Dan Burn, that first line of defences, Tonali and the 6, it's made all the difference. By the way, Tonali and Bruno jumped a little bit between 6 and 8 today that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with. I'm not too sure that is for the betterment of the team, but nonetheless, Tonali has been that first line of defence, putting out those fires, but Dan Burn behind him. And again today, I wrote in the paper, he's got the NBA frame, but the NFL strength, and wow, wasn't he a tower of strength for his team here today. So that is where we'll end it, talking about Dan Burn, and rightly so. But Newcastle now roll on to another brilliant one. I'll be back down here in North London on Tuesday night against Arsenal. Again, I was touching on it there before I got slightly sidetracked, but can they go there and find a different way to play and just keep themselves in that game, taking Arsenal back to St James's for what? It's a month away, but I can't wait already. Wow, that promises to be brilliant. Another massive occasion under the lights at St James's, but a lot more to come before now, and then they've got a real chance, Newcastle, to solidify their place in that I say top 5 or 5th at the moment, but push beyond that, top 4, top 3 even. So yeah, guys, please comment below the line, like, subscribe, give me your thoughts. Was I right with Dan Burn? Am I getting too carried away with the other performers who deserve to be at the top of the podium? What do you think of the second half? Was it a worry, or was it understandable? What about the first half? What about Sven Botman? Where do they go from here? What do they do with Arsenal? How do they approach it? Tell me below the line, and I'll see you again on Monday morning when I'll be talking to Eddie Howe ahead of that game down at Arsenal. One last little scan of this place, guys. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.